Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. As we get closer and closer to the end of our final show now with the Christmas spirit alongside Eng and Kevin Coleman. I'm Frank Granito. As we have a special Nutmeg Sports for you today, looking back on the fall season from 2016. We really haven't had a chance yet, guys, to recap and go through all of the sporting events that we covered this fall, just because of the scheduling, the way it worked out with state football playoffs and our FCIAC winter tour. But we were talking about these the other day, and we really thought it was a nice idea and a good tribute to these athletes who put together one hell of a season for us to cover.
We talked about yesterday on Nutmeg Sports how it was such a cool thing for me, at least. First season, really being involved in covering fall sports. I had a blast. I really, soccer was, something that I really enjoyed, and I played soccer, but field hockey and volleyball really stood out to me. I really enjoyed watching those two sports this fall.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's great is that you get a chance to see sports that you don't necessarily spend a lot of time with. Everyone, football and soccer are always exciting, but then you realize, field hockey, volleyball, cross country. These are exciting sports with dynamic athletes and a lot of interesting stories to tell.
And Don, I think the biggest accomplishment of the fall has got to be the fact that we have survived Nutmeg together now for a season and are still somewhat friends, we can say.
More or less, we're on speaking terms. Although you did give me the Chevy Chase here ear thumper hat.
We offered you the green hat. There were choices out there. But let's look at some of these championships from the fall, and I'd like to start with girls soccer. We saw two teams in a rematch of last year's championship. That was Ridgefield and St. Joe's. St. Joe's, a lot of people thought were going to take a couple steps back, losing top players, but able to rebuild, find themselves in that number one seed again, where they met the number 2 Ridgefield Tigers. And different chapter, same story really, though, this year, Kevin.
Yeah, you look back during the regular season, these two teams played against each other, and St. Joe's won 1-0. And that had a lot to do with their leader in Lindsay Savko. She was great up front for the Lady Cadets. But the Ridgefield Tigers, they came into the FCIAC playoffs, played outstanding. You talk about Katie Jasminski, who is stellar all season long. And how about Grace Franklin? I think she hasn't been talked about enough. I mean, her free kicks are world class. The pace that she puts on that goes into the 18-yard box. You remember in that FCI championship game against St. Joe's, she was the reason why Jasminski scored. Went off the top bar. Jasminski placed it with her right foot and went in. And the Tigers had a great season. You mentioned that they weren't expected to go that far.
No, and Don, this was a Ridgefield Tigers girls team that brought back 9 of 11 starters from that championship team. And it was really the lower, you don't want to say the lesser names, but some of those unknown names that sets up. I mean, you had Alyssa Bonanno, who was your tournament MVP for the FCIAC championships. Katie Jasminski, Alexandra Dameron, so great all year. But the Tigers' defense really impressed me the most this year, only surrendering a half goal a game against their opponents.
Yeah, it really doesn't get any better than that. And what's amazing is also that when you go through the season, St. Joseph and to a lesser extent Ridgefield with the weight of expectations, and then you live up to them. And it was such an exciting year on the girls soccer side, and culminating in the championship game.
And there were a lot of great games we got to see. Darien had such a good year. St. Joe's and obviously Ridgefield, Greenwich putting together a solid season, the Ludlow girls playing well. In the end, though, we got to see the same championship we saw last year. It was St. Joe's number 1 and number 2 Ridgefield. The Tigers able to come away victorious. Let's look at the highlights from the girls soccer fall championship. We are all too familiar with, but a new chapter put on top of it. A year ago, they were undefeated coming in, the number 1 seed St. Joe's Cadets. We are all too familiar with, but a new chapter put on top of it. A year ago, they were undefeated coming in, the number 1 seed St. Joe's Cadets, only to see their perfect season ruined by the number 2 seeded Ridgefield Tigers. Just missed connecting on that last one. This time she sends it towards the cage. Off the crossbar, the header, it's in! The celebration has begun on the Ridgefield sideline. 2-1, it's over. The Tigers are your back-to-back FCIAC champions in girls soccer. So So congratulations again to Ridgefield. Awesome to see them pull off the two back-to-back championships. It was well-deserved and a great send-off for that senior class. They ended up falling in the championship for Class LL. St. Joe's was a state champion in soccer, so congrats to the cadets there bouncing back. But a lot of fun on the girls' side of the pitch. You look at the boys' side of the pitch, and we had co-champions this year, and there are a lot of opinions that can be shared on that, but at the end of the day, the game we saw played, it would have been very, very tough to tell those young men you're kicking penalty kicks to determine who is the ultimate champion this year.
I agree with you. Just even beyond the game, it was just the intensity beforehand. When the crowd was coming in, we were in the booth getting ready. You could just feel that this was the two teams that were right to be there. They were meant to be there, and just the atmosphere throughout the game, the intensity that these two teams brought to that championship game was really just spectacular. I had a blast, and yes, and it is co-champs. But at the end of the day, I think both teams have to be very proud of the performance that they had this season.
And Don, both these teams now, they finished the regular season and the FCX season undefeated. 5 years down the road, they're not going back and saying at their reunion, "Oh, we were They're going to say right there, "We were the champions of the FCX."
Not only that, but at both reunions, both teams are going to be saying we were the undefeated FCX champions of 2016, and rightly so.
And I mean, there were so many just world-class, to steal a phrase, players on both these rosters. Jonathan Campbell in goal for the Eagles had a phenomenal postseason tournament. Then you had James Johnson, the sophomore for the Cardinals, who was tremendous all year. Sebastian Hernandez, such a great striker. And was there a better player in the FCX this year, Kevin, than Chris Lancia?
Chris Lancia, we'll take a look at that goal later on, but boy, was that a thing of beauty. He had a great season, and again, congratulations to him. We know that he is committed to St. John's next season, so he'll be playing for the Red Storm for boys soccer. It was a pleasure, to not only chat with him, but to watch him play on that right side and kind of just the style he played, and just the whole Trumbull team in itself. You talk about Restrepo, in the middle. It was a pleasure to watch these young men play. And for the Greenwich side, you talk about Sebastian Hernandez. In that championship game, he actually had a couple of chances to put Greenwich up 2-1, and he was a threat all season long. And again, the Cardinals well-deserving to be co-champs as well.
Right. And I'm just taking a quick look, just kind of refresh my memory at the CIAC brackets. When you look at some of the runs these teams made in the Class LL brackets on both sides, the boys and the girls side, deep runs into the quarters and the semis for a lot of these teams, you realize that what an accomplishment it was. Even more so, the quality of competition that these two teams went undefeated against in this FCX season. Really a very impressive, just all around.
And you think about, too, just the mental strain and how exhausting it is to go through the FCX tournament. It's a gauntlet of such when you have to play these teams that a lot of FCX teams made it past the first and second round in the state tournament. For these guys to have played in championship game, played extra time in a championship, and then go on runs in the states, it's all that more impressive. Let's take a look at the highlights of the boys soccer championship between your co-champion Trumbull Eagles and Greenwich Cardinals. We started back in September with 17. By last Thursday, we were down to 8, Tuesday 4, and now tonight with the boys FCX championship on the line, we have 2 teams left. Sometime in the next 20 minutes or so. We'll keep you up to date on all the scores out of the conference. Flavian Lolo, he buries it.
And a trickery free kick there, Frank. All set up by Alejandro McLean. Flavian Lolo, this is a guy who the coaching staff for Trumbull were talking to me before the game, saying that he's a guy that we're looking out for.
Bending kick here, towards the front of the net, off the crossbar, and they score! Hits the man from the back line, Volchek, who picks up his first goal of the tournament. We are going to end in a 1-1 draw. The 2016 FCX Championship will feature co-champions, your Trumbull Eagles and your Greenwich Cardinals. So congrats again to Greenwich and Trumbull. Great season and an even better championship game to be a part of. Let's take a break, guys. Don, you're going to step out. We'll welcome in John Kovac, and we are going to take a look back on the football season, featuring, of course, the Turkey Bowl of 2016 between New Canaan and Darien. That's a tough game to forget. All that coming up next on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
1, 2, 3, Abby! You know! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Again, come on. I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Pressure technique. Bring it back.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking. To a partner that makes small businesses feel big. Where community comes first. Where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch. Where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver. Where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
What makes Darien special during the holiday season? Locally owned shops and restaurants where you can find everything you need to make your holidays more enjoyable. Start with breakfast, then shop for everything from toys to unique gifts and the latest trends in fashion. Take a coffee break. Stop at our farmers market or one of our shops, where you'll find an amazing selection of cheeses and meats. Then enjoy dining at one of our fabulous restaurants. This holiday season, experience shopping and dining in Darien.
Why cook at all this holiday? Avoid the stress of holiday planning and let your friends at Walter Stewart's in New Canaan do the heavy lifting. Whether you're looking to fill in with a few crowd-pleasing sides or you want us to prepare your whole feast, from cranberry sauce to pumpkin pie, we're ready to simplify your holiday. Place your order from our holiday menu and spend your holiday the right way, relaxing. Our fresh prepared holiday meals to go are designed with your busy schedule in mind. Visit us at stewartsmarket.com or at 229 Elm Street, New Canaan.
The holidays are a wonderful time to spend with families and friends, sharing a fantastic meal. Football season is in full swing, the fishing has been unbelievable, and it's time to make a list and check it twice. Stop at the dock shop, get a fix of summer, and browse loads of new products, including fishing tackle, accessories, clothing, jewelry, and home decor. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or dockshop.com.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Back on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network, and we welcome in our football color man, John Kovacs. John, another great season of football in the FCIAC. We saw two state champion teams, a state runner-up, and of course one of the best turkey bowls I think anyone has ever seen.
On top of that, when we were getting ready for this show, when we were talking about the games, and then we started to talk about all these little games through this. Boy, that was a great game. Wait a minute, that was a one. Boy, that was a great game. And just how many great games we were able to do starting that first weekend.
Well, the first weekend was unbelievable. You had the Ridgefield comeback against Trumbull, and we get the highlights right here on the screen. For the first 24 minutes of football, you thought, okay, Trumbull is now the team to beat in the FCIAC. They're going to run away with it this year. And then all of a sudden, the Tigers come storming back, as we saw so many times this year between September and December. But you're really right, John. We were sitting here, and I was going to ask you guys, what was your favorite game this season? What was the best game we saw? It's really, really tough. I think the Turkey Bowl was the #1 game in the entire state, arguably the entire region for this fall, but it was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of great football played in Connecticut.
If you want to put me on the spot and have me pick a favorite game, I'm leaning really, really hard. Let me hedge this. Let's say favorite regular season game. I think it's hard to top that Greenwich at Darien game that we had. It was week 3 or 4, I believe it was.
It was the third week of the year. Greenwich pushing Darien to the brink. They ended up losing 42-35. Kevin, you were there as well, and I think that was when we really got the sense that this Cardinal team was back on the rise, and Coach Johnny Marinelli had them trending in the right direction.
You're right. I mean, we saw Kevin Iobi. I mean, he went out for a big touchdown there. Connor Langan looked really comfortable in the pocket against a very, very tough Darien Blue Wave defense. But at the end of the day, it's almost impossible to beat this Blue Wave team at home. They're so good at home.
But they hung with them. Greenwich hung with them. This was like a heavyweight fight. It was, punch here, punch there, punch here, punch there. nobody was ever, until that clock got to 0, was able to put the other guy away.
And that's a great point, because we saw some big comebacks this season, really great games where one team had to fight their way back from double digits, 17, 20, 24 points. This was a game where the lead was never larger than 14, and it was back and forth. Someone would score, here comes an answer. Someone would score, here comes an answer. What really stood out to me about this game, John, it was the first time, specifically as a class, this Darien team was truly tested and had to fight through any kind of adversity, and they showed this was the start of them going undefeated again this year.
I think you're absolutely right. I think this is an afternoon in which two teams grew up, because Darien, for the first time in a long time, faced adversity. They got punched in the mouth. How are they going to react? Because you always wonder. You've won so long. You're not used to playing behind. I've coached teams that never were behind in a season until Thanksgiving. And then as soon as they got behind, they didn't know how to play from behind. Darien proved they could do it this Saturday afternoon, and Greenwich proved that they could hang with the state champion. Important day of growing up for both these clubs.
And that's a good point, because you think to the Turkey Bowl now, Darien had already squandered away a lead this year to a team and had to prove, okay, let's reset. We can come back and finish this off. And I think this was a great example and a great learning experience for the Wave heading fast forward to Thanksgiving.
You're absolutely right. Again, to John's point about growing up, you talked about just the highlight before they stopped Greenwich at the goal line. You talk about a confidence booster for the defense. And I think that really was the stepping stone of that game. You see that touchdown pass by Brian Peters. I mean, that really kind of opened the floodgates for the Blue Wave and really sealed the deal. But, you know, to go into the season like that and stop a great team, especially on the offensive side like the Cardinals, at the goal line with a Connor Langan and a Kevin Iobi and that great offensive line, huge confidence booster for the Blue Wave defense.
One of my favorite games this year was our Staples St. Joe's games that we covered, John. It was a cold night in Staples, and this is a Rutgers team that was really fighting for their postseason lives, trying to salvage a season. And for the St. Joe's Cadets, they proved that they were on the path towards a state championship and being a really, really good team this year.
They were really on the ropes, but not as bad as they should have been. Staples dominated the early portion of this game, but they were never able to put it away. St. Joe's came back, and that was a different team. And in speaking to a coach after, he said the guys up front put it on their backs.
John, let me interrupt you for 1 second, because this is my favorite play of the year. Right
no
there,
question.
that block, you see Andrew Speed, the quarterback, on an option play, get back out in front and be the lead blocker for LA. That was one play that stood out with me this year. I thought that was awesome to see.
That more so than the Finley Collins catch in the Greenwich
that
game
was just, that play.
I love that play because it works that play. The Collins catch was all athleticism, and it was just the last in a string of athletic plays. That play we just saw in the Staples St. Joe's game with the block by Speed, that was just a play working the way you want it to. That's football theory coming into reality. You ladder it outside, everybody blocks a man, you block the edge, and there you go.
Kevin, I saw you on at that one too. You had the Andrew Speed hurdle. Whoa. He was a tremendous athlete, had a great year. That was another fun game to be a part of. And of course, the controversy at the end of that one really put a little bit of extra spice on top of it. But just another one of the great games we saw. There was, of course, Marinelli Bowl #2. You had New Canaan and Greenwich. Then there was the Greenwich Ridgefield game from Tiger Hollow, where our own equipment froze over, and you just, another great game. Ridgefield is down. They've got to come back. We get to the end of the regular season. There are two teams, again, sitting there at 9-0, and it was the perfect situation. You've got New Canaan, Darien, in what was the best game I thought we saw all year.
But you mentioned Ridgefield coming back yet again. How many times did we say this fall that Ridgefield team came back? How many times did they look done? And they ended up playing until the last day of the season.
Well, remember that Shelton game that they played in the state tournament? I mean, how impressive was that? And you talk about, the Trumbull game, then the Greenwich game. When that game stuck out to me the most, because not only were we freezing, but the equipment froze over, but you talk about the resiliency they had. I mean, that defense impressed me that night. Greenwich came out, looked great in that first half. You almost thought to yourself, here we go again. Tigers are digging themselves another hole. Second half, they came out, third quarter, they stepped up. In the fourth quarter, again, that defense just, the Cardinals offense had no answer for them.
They would do it again at West Haven, do it again at Shelton. But let's look at the Thanksgiving Day highlights from the amazing New Canaan comeback to the even better Darien win for the 6th straight time as they take home the Thanksgiving trophy.
3rd and 6 from their own 22. Pine looking to the left side. Wants a man on the wheel. He is hit. Lost the football. It's loose. Scooped up into the end zone. Touchdown, Darien. Horde Fox with the fumble recovery for a score. And the only thing that couldn't go wrong for the Rams just did. Looking to his left, tries to fling one outside. He's got O'Connell. O'Connell makes a man miss to the end zone. Touchdown, Rams.
And there's Quentin O'Connell. We talked about him, his 7th receiving touchdown of the season. He finally gets on the board today. It's probably the longest we've been in a game where the O'Connells are playing with neither of them in the end zone.
Spencer Williams takes the snap. He's heading for the end zone. Is he in? Touchdown, New Canaan. And we're an extra point away from this being a 7-point game. Mike, what a drive.
Absolutely great drive, great play calling.
They're quick to line up. Williams in the gun. They give inside to O'Connell. He got it. Is he going to get in? Is he short? Touchdown, New Canaan.
Wow. He just got in on that second effort. Looked like a little trouble handing the ball off, but the Rams get in the end zone. We're an extra point away from overtime, Frank. We knew New Canaan Darien couldn't end up being a blowout. These games are always a classic.
Minikis to hold. The snap, the kick is up. And it is good. So Darien able to convert. They take a 3-point lead. It's not what you want, but no matter what, Mike, you have to get on the board in that first possession. Pine's got O'Connell and Braden in the backfield. They trail by 3, 1st and goal. O'Connell motions to the left. They fake the screen. They're coming back for Braden. It's intercepted. Finley Collins has got it, and the Darien Blue Wave have won the Turkey Bowl.
They set up the screen, and Finley Collins read it well. We've seen him come close to picking off a few balls today. Got to be devastating for the Rams players. They thought they had a great chance there. Great play by Finley Collins, and he's shown all day why he's one of the best players in the FCIAC.
The fans storm the field. The Wave, for a 5th consecutive season, have won on Thanksgiving.
So congratulations again to the Blue Wave. What a fun game to be a part of. John, if you had to pick one player from the fall for the football, who do you think was the MVP of the FCIAC this season?
Am I picking an MVP? Am I picking a player of the year? If I'm picking a player of the year, I'll probably go with Finley Collins, who we just watched make that interception, who we saw do so much. MVP, does Greenwich win the games it won without Kevin Iobi? Does Ridgefield without Shane Palmer? What about those guys?
It's a really tough question, and you could argue Ryan O'Connell from New Canaan, if he doesn't tweak his ankle down the stretch, you know, what did we see from that Rams team? Is the emergent, and you were just talking, Kevin, about a Graham Braden touchdown in the Turkey Bowl. Graham Braden ran for over 1,000 yards in the last 5 games of the season because O'Connell's injured. He doesn't get a shot if Ryan O'Connell doesn't tweak his ankle.
Right.
It's those little things.
Or New Canaan wouldn't have been able to come back without Graham Braden. The way he stepped up, especially in that game, the Turkey Bowl, was fantastic.
It was just a great football season, a lot of great games. Let's take a quick break. John, thank you for joining us. We'll see you tonight for girls
you'll be
hockey.
seeing a lot more of me, too.
A lot more of you, and hopefully that green hat, too.
Oh, it'll be here.
When we get back, Don Angle will join us again. We're going to talk about our players of the fall season across the board and maybe look at our favorite match from the volleyball season right after this on Nutmeg Sports.
At Hoyt Livery, our goal is to always... Sam, what are you doing? We're filming a commercial.
I'm checking out the new Hoyt on the Go app.
Hoyt's here!
My company developed Tranquility Mind and Body Wellness Spa 13 years ago. The building had 2 huge Olympic-sized pools in it. Builders would come, take a look to develop, and no one really knew what to do with it. Milford Bank saw our vision, and they jumped right in. They were the bank that we needed to come behind this hometown project. My name is Tina DeNaples, and I choose to bank with Milford Bank.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan. And you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Sign up now for the InSports New England Top 80 Lacrosse Showcase taking place on January 14th. Coaches from New England colleges will be scouting and coaching the recruits for the college class of 2019 and 2020. The top 40 players will be featured in All-Star Game to get maximum recruiting exposure. Spots will fill up fast, so go to insports.com for pricing and more information. Like and follow us on Facebook.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune into Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier network. And we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Back on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network, and I'm going to cut both of you off right now, and I'm going to take you to my favorite match of the entire fall season. I had an absolute blast covering volleyball this year. It's the first time I've really been engulfed into this sport, and we got to see some of the best athletes, I think. You know, Meredith Pellegrino ended up being named an All-American this year. Andrea O'Connor for Stanford was tremendous. In the end, you get the 3 and 4 seeds in the championship game, both playing for their first ever FCAC title, and they did not disappoint going all 5 sets. Let's look at those highlights right now.
If Stanford takes the point, they lead 1-0. Far side for Pellegrino.
That one falls into the net. Stanford takes the first set.
And what an exciting first set it was. 25-23. Just get this in. In play. They go right back to Morton on the far side.
Great defensive play.
They've got to come over from the back line. Jacobo, is it going to go out? It does. We're tied up at 1. You could tell the Black Knights looked a little uncomfortable in the middle there.
Unmentioned night, but she'd had some great defensive play throughout the set so far.
All the way across on the second touch. Ballas off the fingertips of DeJager. And the Stanford Black Knights now a set away from their first ever FCAC championship. It's 2-1 at the end of 3.
Girl, don't give up. Fight, fight, fight.
One more time, she gets it. Dardis.
Communication. Now that we need them to reset.
Free ball opportunity.
Outside for Morton.
Going up. We're going to play 5.
They're going 5. What a way to finish from Taylor Morton.
Both teams sent over to their benches. What a fourth set. 25-19 for the Senators. We'll be back with the 5th and decisive set. Stanford has to win by 2. They lead 14-11.
Good serve for Morton going outside to O'Connor.
She goes up. She got it! Stanford, for the first time, are champions of the FCAC in volleyball.
What an awesome day that was, Kev. You were there. Just the atmosphere in the Ludlow Gymnasium, but then the fact that it went 5 sets. It was so competitive from start to finish, back and forth, and I'm all in. I can't wait for the boys' volleyball season coming up in the spring.
When you talk about atmosphere, speaking to Lisa Ballas and Andrea O'Connor after the game, interviewing them, that's what they were talking about the most. They've never played in a gym with that much intensity. The fans were wonderful. The student sections were great. And you talk about those two players in general, Lisa Ballas and Andrea O'Connor. Those two aren't on the Stanford Black Knights roster. I don't think they're going to win an FCAC title or a state title.
No, I mean, Dom, we talked about it a lot during the year on Nutmeg Sports. Just it was so competitive, the volleyball, all year long. You had Greenwich, Ridgefield, Stanford, and McMahon all jostling for those top 4 spots, who was going to finish where. And in the end, it's the Black Knights and the Senators who came out on top.
And as you mentioned, though, with the tension and the energy and the intensity with which they play, I think it's something about the nature of volleyball, with the teams being able to side out. These games, when you have two competitive teams, these games stay close, and the tension really is just relentless all the way through. It's like, it's terrifying to me watching them. I can't imagine what it's like to play in a game like that. And as you mentioned, also the competitiveness. 3 of the 4, just to look at the CIAC standings, 3 of the final 4 teams standing in Class AA from the FCIAC, and obviously Stanford over Ridgefield in the finals.
Yep. And it was just a Cinderella type year for the Black Knights. We talked with Coach Smirglio after the season, and he expressed his thanks to us for covering the girls, but really we want to thank him for making it so much fun for us. Kev, let's talk about a couple of the top plays from the fall season. And I know John Kovac is standing in the back about ready to 619 me for not using the Finley Collins one-handed catch, but there were a couple of plays on the pitch this year that really stood out, and we're up there at the top for sure.
Yeah, you talk about top plays. Chris Lancia against Stanford. You go back to that game against Stanford Black Knights in boys soccer. Stanford is up 2-0 with around maybe 12 minutes to go in the second half, and you talk about this Trimble Eagles team. 3 unanswered goals in the final 10 minutes of that game. I mean, talk about a wild finish, and Chris Lancia had one of the best goals I think I've ever seen, especially in the FCIAC.
Well, let's take a look at that goal right now as we go to the highlight from earlier this year.
The cross can't get in, but it goes right back to Lancia. Looking to get a shot on net. He does! He rips it in! What a goal by Matt Lancia!
Lancia just curving it with a vicious verve there into the lefty, goes far post and just cuts it right in there.
And Don, you just said it best. That ball was going 5 feet wide. What a shot off the foot of Lancia. Beautiful touch, better finish.
Yeah, I mean that was like that was like a vintage Mike Messina curveball, maybe coming from the other direction.
David Beckham,
outstanding.
Yes, there it is, the David Beckham. For me, the play of the year I thought from soccer actually was on the defensive side. It was when we were at Danbury in the quarterfinals of the FCX, and you had a back and forth 0-0 game between Ludlow, and they're going back and forth. Ludlow with a huge opportunity, ball squeaks past the goal line. Coming out of nowhere then, the Hatters defender who's going to save the day with the ball on the line. What a save it was.
What a save. I mean, just the instincts to know where that ball is going to be, the athleticism, and just the awareness. That's just a true defender right there. Backing up his goalie in the right position. We were in the booth. We were still stunned that he made that save. It was very impressive.
Kevin Spinato was the defender on the save. Let's take a look as he kept the Hatters season alive for at least another day to advance to the semifinals.
And here's an opportunity now for the Falcons. In on Cage, shot on goal, big save by McGuire. The rebound rolling towards the end line, no goal.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Brilliant work. It was Kevin Spinato.
Kevin Spinato just saved Danbury's season for the most part, right? Wow.
That is Kevin Spinato, who was a forward at the start of the season and had to be moved back to defense after a couple of injuries. A great year for the Hatters, though. A disappointing finish, and we can save that for another day with what happened there. But what a fun team to follow, and we followed a lot of them down the stretch, Kev.
Yeah, after that game, actually spoke to Kaiki Nascimento. He was a great interview. I think out of all interviews, he was one of the most interesting guys to talk to. He talked about his growing up playing soccer and just the culture that he played in. It was cool to listen to him talk about his background, how he grew up with soccer, and how invested he was with this Hatters team, and the chemistry behind this Hatters team was phenomenal to see. They all dyed their hair blonde during the playoffs. But again, Kevin Spinato, you touched upon it, a forward to begin the season. At the end, he gets pushed back to playing in the back four. I know sometimes forwards get discouraged when that happens. You almost think that you're not as important as some of the guys playing up front. He stepped up big, made that huge save to keep them in the game, and advanced to the semifinal.
Let's talk now, guys. Player of the year for the entire fall season, any sport, and I'll go to you first, Don. Who was it for you?
For me, it was Morgan McCormick of Wilton, cross-country runner, won the FCIAC championship there for Wilton, won the Class L championship by 51 seconds in a 4K race, and then, of course, went on to win the State Open by 2 seconds over a runner from Tolland. And the reason for that is because, I understand now Wilton, Ridgefield was obviously the team class of the FCAC this year on the girls' side, but there's something about running, a runner and a clock, and how hard can you push yourself? And clearly, she pushed herself farther and faster than anyone else this year. Morgan McCormick, my player of the year for the fall sports.
Only a junior too. We'll see Morgan again next year, and obviously she'll have nationals aspirations. But what stood out to me the most about McCormick when we interviewed her after the cross-country championships, first thing she says to us is, well, I want to give a lot of credit to the freshman from Greenwich who came in second. Wanted no credit, didn't care what she had just accomplished, immediately wanted to share the glory with her other competitors as well. It was very inspiring and great to see. That was a good choice too. I like that one. Kevin, how about for you?
You just touched on it. That is a great pick, Morgan McCormick. She, great interview as well. She had a fantastic year, well deserving for HAN MVP for the FCAC. I'm going to stick with my soccer. I'm going to go with Chris Lancia of the Trumbull Eagles. Again, I had a blast covering him this season. He actually reached out and said, it was a blast for us to cover him and the rest of the Trumbull Eagle team, and I want to wish him the best of luck at St. John's.
It was really tough for me thinking about this too, and you could have gone either Lindsay Savko, Katie Jasminski, Alexandra Dameron from the girls soccer. I really wanted to go Meredith Pellegrino from McMahon the year she had. Taylor Morton was incredible. Lisa Ballas on the volleyball side for Stanford. But in the end, you're the MVP of the FCAC and the state tournament. You deliver your school the first state and FCAC championship. I got to go with Andrea O'Connor. She had such a great year for the Stanford Black Knights, reviving that volleyball program, taking them to the next level. What a blast to watch. So Andrea O'Connor, for me, was the athlete who really stood out and I thought had the best fall season of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Andrea O'Connor. Again, it wasn't for her and Lisa Ballas. The two of them were key pieces to that Stanford Black Knights team. And you touched upon it, they got their first championship in school history. I mean, how cool is that? They get to go back in their gym and see the banner in the gym, which is pretty cool.
And also, the best player on the floor in the best game we saw all fall, I thought.
Exactly. Boys, it's been a lot of fun for 2016. This is our last Nutmeg Sports before the new year. I want to thank both of you for coming on. I can't wait to work with you again starting in January. That goes for you too, John. We'll have Kovacs with us tonight, though. We are at the rinks of Terry Connors for Stanford, West Hill, and Staples as they host the Greenwich Cardinals in girls hockey. For Donald Eng, Kevin Coleman, John Kovacs, we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you on Nutmeg Sports in 2017, but make sure you stay tuned for all of our sports broadcasts that roll on through the winter holidays.